Hello and welcome to Alphonso Speaks. I am Alphonso McGriff III, and I use this platform to share information about the conscious conversation experience. And so, again, I am Alphonso McGriff III. This is Alphonso Speaks, and this is where I share information about the conscious conversation experience. The conscious conversation experience is a collaboration and movement that chooses love and enlightenment. It's a movement that chooses love and enlightenment. And when we talk about resolution, we're talking about the successful solving of a problem. Uh, when we talk about a conscious conversation, in most cases, we're talking about the successful solving of a problem or sharing information to the extent we have the opportunity to learn from one another. I am here to help myself and people around the world transform conflict into conscious conversation that leads to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. Some people ask, well, what is a conscious conversation? A conscious conversation is a verbal interaction where we speak with the desire to understand. We ask questions and we share information. We take responsibility for our thoughts, words, and actions and control our prejudices and emotions, which, if left unchecked, will disrupt the goal of having a conscious conversation. The strength of a conscious conversation is its ability to inspire rather than manipulate. Inspire rather than manipulate. The goal during the conscious conversation is not to manipulate people into believing what we want them to believe, but inspiring people to understand what they feel, what they claim, what they believe, to the extent that it makes sense to them. And it doesn't have to make sense to us as long as it makes sense to them. Ultimately, the conscious conversation experience is a pathway to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. Ultimately, we are about understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. Understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. I always let people know and give people this fair warning, and that is when you work to improve the quality of who you are, it can bring resentment. Insecure people in the presence of one who is secure with who they are and how they move. Sometimes insecure people will go after you and try to think of ways to disrupt your satisfaction with self, or disrupt your flow, or disrupt your appearance to be at ease with whatever is going on around you. You know, ultimately, the more comfortable we get with ourselves, the less we are affected by things around us that we have no control over. So, the conscious conversation experience is a pathway to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. Eventually, if people have questions, I would like you to post a question or share a question, and then my goal is to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So tonight, before I go into one person speaks at a time, I like to share another concept or share um, another way we cripple ourselves, and that is I call it guaranteed miserable life stuff. So this is another guaranteed miserable life thing. When we live with regrets, when we live with regrets. The way to not live with regrets is to learn from the experience. The way to not live with regrets is to learn from experience. When we live with regrets, we torture ourselves and waste valuable time in the lives we have left, in the life we have left, and it cripples us from moving forward. So rather than me living with regrets, it's important for me to learn from the experience, whatever that may be. And as I continue to grow and evolve and learn from my experiences, we have less and less regrets. And sometimes we make mistakes. That's still no reason to live with regrets. Ultimately, the goal is to learn from our experiences so that we can continue moving forward in life. But we don't want to be stifled because we did something and the world has conditioned us that we're supposed to make our lives miserable for the rest of our lives because we made some bad decisions or a bad decision. The best way to live and not have regrets is to learn from the experience and genuinely learn from the experience. And then if we can learn from the experience, we can continue growing and evolving. That's how it's supposed to be. Growth and evolution. So tonight's topic is one person speaks at a time. One person speaks at a time. One person speaks at a time. Oh my goodness, that is so difficult for my people to allow one person to speak at a time during the conversation. If we're having a conversation and more than one person is speaking, in the conscious conversation experience, we call that a fight. And we don't want to be fighting. Our whole goal and objective is to not be in a fight. So we do not speak over each other. We seek understanding. One person speaks at a time. Traditionally, people engage in what we call give and take by cutting each other off and interrupting one another during the conversation. This behavior may be the biggest challenge for most people interested in having a conscious conversation. Now, we call it give and take when we chop each other off rudely and go back and forth that way. However, the conscious conversation experience is not interested in that type of interaction. Sometimes when we respond to a potential trigger, our emotions get out of control and we refuse to hear the complete thought of the other person. And we don't give ourselves a chance to understand what the person is saying. So, and the interesting thing is, the amazing thing is we'll blame somebody for triggering us and then hold it against them forever as though they're supposed to, they have some type of extrasensory perception where they know all of your triggers. I mean, we'll do this to people we don't even know and accuse them openly of triggering us as though they're supposed to know that watermelons with black seeds trigger you. Like, and I'm saying we genuinely move that way as though people should know our triggers. I call that a form of insanity. There's no way that people know your triggers. And if you are triggered, if I am allegedly triggered, then I have to deal with that and work that out, especially when I'm among people who have no idea who I am. And they bring up watermelons with black seeds. And you start seeing red because something happened in your life that with watermelons and black seeds, and they're supposed to know that. That's just totally unreasonable. So, we have to get our triggers in check. And I'll take it even further. When we are interacting with someone who we feel knows our buttons and triggers, and we feel they push those buttons and triggers, it's still no excuse to be going off on people. Because if I say you don't have self-respect, you're going to want to fight me. People don't want to be told they don't have any self-respect. But like I said in the past, if you hand over your physiological well-being to someone, you can't claim to have self-respect. Even if you believe someone intentionally pushed your triggers, and then for that reason you feel justified in flying off the handle, you have given that person control over your breathing rate, your blood pressure, your heart rate, your adrenaline flow, that cortisol that comes in there and jacks everything up, including our immune system. You're going to hand that over to somebody and then say you have self-respect? Self-respect is deeply rooted in self-responsibility and self-love. So we can't claim to have self-respect while blaming somebody for triggering us and making us fly off the handle. Those two things don't operate in the same space. Those two things don't operate in the same space. So like I said, sometimes when we respond to a potential trigger, our emotions get out of control. We refuse to hear the complete thought of the other person, and then we don't give ourselves a chance to understand what the person is saying. Now, we have many wonderful reasons why we cut each other off and interrupt each other. We have many wonderful reasons why, justifiable reasons why. We have reasons that we'll argue until the end of time to justify why we cut people off. We'll say, you long-winded. Okay. That part of what you said is not true. I can't let you keep going. I got to stop you right there. I got to stop you right there because that is not true. And then we have the other one. Well, I have to cut you off or else I'm going to forget what I want to say. I need to say what I want to say. And then the most famous interruption in the history of the world is not to cut you off, but no, you're cutting me off. You can't cut me off and start the sentence by saying not to cut you off. So we had these wonderful reasons for cutting people off, but during the conscious conversation and when we're engaging in the conscious conversation experience, we do not cut people off. I know how hard it is, but I think that when we're engaging in a conversation with other people, and we have a bad habit of cutting people off, I think it's a great exercise to practice not doing it, because it will make us better listeners for sure. You know, rather than being like Nicole said, most people listen to respond, not really hearing and understanding. That's just very true. And we want to listen to understand. So during a conscious conversation, these things that we do and reasons that we have for cutting people off just start fights and arguments. No, there's no justifiable reason during the conscious conversation experience for us cutting each other off. And so when we begin having get-togethers and these conscious conversation experiences, that is something we have to work on and practice so that we don't come into a conscious conversation experience with that behavior. When we interrupt a person, we don't give them a chance to complete their thought, and we don't allow ourselves to adequately address a completed idea or thought. It's so interesting how we can cut a person off before they complete their thought. Like, how can you adequately respond to a person if you cutting them off before they complete their thought? Now, these are common sense things. It's not difficult to understand, but these are still things we do that make it difficult for us to engage in conversations. So we have to allow a person to complete a thought. Now, sometimes before the conversation starts, we can come up with a time. We can say, okay, every person has a full minute to make their point. And the minute is up, the bell rings, it's a wrap. I mean, this is a way to begin the process of respecting each other and not cutting each other off. And if you really want to um, engage in respecting one another, one of the best things to do, everybody has their phone. You have something you want to say, grab your phone and type it in so that you won't forget. You know, everyone can bring, the old school brings them pen and paper, a smart device to avoid cutting people off, and document comments and questions. We listen to the speaker's complete thoughts, document our comments or questions, and address what we've heard without forgetting our thoughts. During a conscious conversation, we must eliminate interruptions to avoid conflicts and allow people to be heard. Absolutely. This doggone Nicole, you on top of things. Yes, you can take notes. Some of us forget that. You can take notes during a conscious conversation, and you can write down your thoughts so you won't forget them and feel like you have to cut somebody off. And we're all different. Some people are long-winded, and that's just how it goes. Some people are long-winded, and that's okay. We're all different. One of the things that I always say is our minds are like the details in a fingerprint. We are so different and so unique, each one of us. If we truly, truly understood that reality about each other, we would expect that we would see things differently when we engage in a conversation. That would be the purpose of the conversation, not to convince each other of anything, but to understand each other so we can give ourselves a chance to learn from each other. But if we truly understood each other as human beings, we would absolutely expect everybody to see things differently than we do. But because we don't understand each other as human beings, and because of our conditioning in this setup in society, where our goal is to convince the other person that our religion is the best religion, our colors are the best colors, our college is the best college, our high school is the best high school. Where the conditioning begins, I watch it in the schools I work in. The conditioning begins at 4 years old in the schools, where we start developing these hard line thoughts that don't respect the fact that we're all different. We're all different. And also, if you have any questions, ask. You can type them, and I'm on Facebook answering questions. That's the main screen that I'm on. I'm also broadcasting on YouTube and TikTok, but the screen that I have up is the Facebook. So if you have any questions, you can post them in the comment area, and I'll address them. So tonight, like I was saying, I wanted to address the fact that one person speaks at a time. If more than one person is speaking during a conscious conversation or during the conscious conversation experience, we call that a fight. And how are we going to have conscious conversations and be fighting? That is not sexy. And I'll be trying to be sexy. So if y'all in the conscious conversation with me and we all trying to be sexy, we can't be fighting. It's fighting is so unsexy. I see some of these videos that come across the what's up, Derek? Some of these videos that come across the screen, and it's guys fighting and it's girls fighting each other and women fighting each other. It is just so not sexy. And I just kind of think people want to be sexy. But this fighting thing, you cannot be sexy and fight at the same time. Those two things can't exist in the same room. That's all I'm saying. So we have to respect each other when we're speaking and not talk over each other or cut each other off. And even myself, I fall short sometimes. Like somebody saying something, but the only difference is I catch myself and I just gather myself. Where there was a time where if I thought you said something that didn't make sense to me, I thought I had a right to cut you off. And some of us feel that way. We think we have a right to cut the other person off because what they said didn't make sense to us. So tonight, the talk is we don't cut each other off during a conscious conversation. And that's for tonight. Tonight, I also wanted to address something that I typed on my page in reference to not having any enemies. You know, we're taught to have enemies, but what we're not helped to understand is that any person or group of people that we identify as enemies, they literally have a negative physiological effect on us when we're in their presence or when we see them. And some of us are so addicted to the adrenaline flow and that physiological effects that happen, we don't even notice it, but it's doing damage to our body. And it's so much better for us mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally to not have enemies, but to have understanding. Whoever I identified or have identified as the enemy, I now see them as understood, and it's my responsibility just to simply act like I know who I'm dealing with. But because of the effects it has on us, the effects, the idea that identifying somebody as an enemy. So each time we see the enemy or cross paths with the enemy, see the enemy on TV, see the enemy in person or whatever, our body has a reaction, even though it's subtle, and where our body is so used to reacting physiologically, many times we don't notice it, but we're doing damage. So this is why I say I don't have any enemies. I just move with an understanding of who those people are. And when I move and act like I know who I'm dealing with. And I think that's important for us to do. So if you don't have any questions, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to get ready to move along tonight. And thank you for hanging out with me because I don't want to hang out too long. I just want to send a message and keep it moving. And my goal is to be here Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock. Yesterday, I got jammed up, so I couldn't. I apologize for not being here at 8 o'clock yesterday. But again, my goal and objective is to be here at 8 o'clock Monday through Friday. And then if I get that feeling on the weekends, just do a pop-up and talk about it, whatever it is. But this is Alphonso Speaks. And what we do here on this platform is promote and discuss and help people understand what the conscious conversation experience is. You could be doing anything right now in this very moment, and you chose to give me some time in your life, whether it's live or whether you watch this video later, I do not take it for granted. I love you all, and I always will, and I will never give up on our people, ever. And I will not join people in speaking about how effed up our people are. Yeah, we got some challenges, but I'd rather speak about how we can improve the quality of who we are than run around acting like I'm an expert in how effed up we are. A 5-year-old can talk about challenges Black people have with how we move and behave and all of that kind of stuff. And it's a whole lot of factors associated with that. And I'm not giving excuses, but I am saying how I choose to handle it is to share some information that I think can help make us better. And that's where my focus is, sharing information that can help make us better. And always remember, you can get my book, The Roots of a Tree, The Genesis of a Conscious Conversation. You can order it on Amazon. The Roots of a Tree, The Genesis of a Conscious Conversation. You can order it on Amazon. And this is a great book. And we all think our books that we write are great, but this is a great book. And if you have a desire to become a better person and improve the quality of who you are, then that's the book to grab and make it happen. And let me know what you think about it, and we can talk about it. So you look it up on Amazon, The Roots of a Tree, The Genesis of a Conscious Conversation. Get the book, because if you read it, you're going to help yourself. Again, like I said. And Nicole, thanks for hanging out tonight. I appreciate your input. And that's what I look for every time I come on. I'm looking for input. I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for thoughts. And I'm looking to hear what other people have flying through the brain. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I am Alphonso McGriff III. This is Alphonso Speaks. This platform is the Conscious Conversation Experience. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I'm going to dip